Welcome to Elm Elaborates. This is season 2, episode 1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10.
11.
I love it.
Okay, we are talking about water.
Water.
Where is the water coming from? Where's it coming from,
You gotta
Cameron?
track it down.
I
That
know.
is probably one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Water's gonna come from the sky, or it actually could come up from the ground.
Yes, we've been
That's
there.
the crazy thing. This
Yeah.
thing, it could be everywhere.
Or from the side. Wind-driven rain.
That is my favorite.
Yeah, so when we have a leak somewhere in a building, right,
Yes.
it's usually who finds it is not usually a construction trained person, so it's just like, hey, the roof is leaking, and that's not always the case, right?
No, you're getting very lucky if someone stops you and says, hey, the roof is leaking.
Yeah.
They're just gonna be like, there's water on the ground. All right.
Yeah.
Back to what I'm doing.
Right. So even if someone tells me the roof is leaking, my alarm goes off. It's like, okay, is it actually the roof?
Yeah.
You know, because you have, like we talked about, we have the roof. We can have water coming in from the side, especially wind-driven rain. We can have water coming in from hydrostatic pressure. That's when soil pushes up against your foundation.
Yep.
So it could come through the side of your foundation, and the water table could be rising, and it could be coming from the
Listen
ground.
to you, water table. Yeah.
That's right. Or there's plumbing, so it could be coming from our plumbing.
Yeah.
Or it could be coming from condensation.
I was about to say HVAC.
HVAC. Condensation lines, but then just general condensation from
Just from the building, yeah.
yeah, from the metal of the building and hitting a very cool surface. Bang,
Boom.
get water.
Get wa-
So as you can see, this is something that you probably don't think of when you think about construction, but when you think about restoring, renovating old buildings, I mean, this is the number one thing always.
Correct. And that's why we always evaluate the roof, because
That's right.
that is obviously one of the biggest surfaces water is going to hit
Yeah.
is the roof. And typically the buildings that we see, water has already entered the building.
Yeah.
I mean, the roof is shot.
Yeah.
It's been there for 20 plus years. You know, there's leaks everywhere. So instead of trying to patch it, usually we just say, okay, tear off new roof.
Right.
That's the best choice.
Yeah, it always depends on the condition, but the most ideal, if the money's in the budget, is
Correct.
tear off the existing and put a new roof on. Now, sometimes it depends on how many layers there are, and we do things called core samples, where basically we take this big circular tube with a teeth on the bottom, and we spin it into the roof, and we find out how many layers of roofing are there, and what kind of roofing material is it, and how saturated is the existing roof. And if all those things check out, and there's not a bunch of layers on it, and the insulation's pretty good, we can just do a cover over where we cover on top of it with some more insulation or a cover board, and then put a new roof on it. So we also have that option. There's also coatings and whatnot. Just depends on what the existing roof is and how bad it is.
Correct.
With Kernersville, that roof was destroyed.
Yeah.
So I never knew this until we had the Kernersville project, but there's certain like vultures or seagulls, or there was some sort of bird
Okay. I don't know where you're going with that.
that love to pick at the seams. Do you remember that?
No, I don't think no, because
I
I had
was-
very little to do with
Yeah.
the actual talks back and forth with Kernersville.
Yeah. So that was the
A bird that eats the seams
yeah.
of
So
the TPO.
no EPDM. So they only like EPDM roofs. So it's a
Picky
black
bird.
Yeah,
I
it's
get
like
it.
a black roof, and I didn't believe it. The manager was telling me like, yeah, those dang whatever kind of birds, they're up there picking away.
Seam birds, yep.
Yeah, the seam birds,
Oh,
right?
Seam birds.
Yeah. And I went up there, and lo and behold, there's just a bird pecking away at the seams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their solution, they were doing they were manufacturing socks and shipping socks. Their solution was to take a 12-pack of socks and shove it in the hole that the bird picked out off the roof. So I went in, I stuck my hand in there, and I pulled out a 12-pack of socks.
Did you keep the socks?
I did. Yes, I brought them down with me. I ended up losing them later in the day. But,
Ah.
yeah, but yeah. So the roof is a major component of where water could be coming in.
Correct.
Sometimes the block or brick comes up past the roof, and you have what's called a coping, a metal coping.
Yeah.
So you could be having water intrusion, and it could actually be near the roof. Looks like it's coming from the roof, but if your roof, when it comes up the block or brick wall, if the top of that wall is not capped properly
Correct.
with a metal coping or whatnot,
Or turn bar.
a turn bar. That's right. Cameron's catching these terms. Yeah, if it's not terminated properly, block and CMU block and brick, it's all porous, so water can get in through the pores on the material itself. So
And how do we fix that?
How do we fix that?
How do we fix that?
It's like you're talking from experience, Cameron.
Well, yeah, we do have one that is currently, there's a mystery. There's a mystery afoot, I'll tell you that. We thought we had it fixed. It just turns out it was great weather because it didn't rain for a while. And then we got a little bit of rain. And we're like, dang, it's back.
It's back.
So we thought it was a lot of wind-driven rain just because brand new roof, right?
Yes.
Brand new roof. We looked at the roof. We looked at the edge seam, the cover tape over the edge and everything. We had brand new flashing on, brand new, I guess, wood.
So the wood nailer on the edge.
Brand new wood nailer down. So we were feeling pretty confident, like, okay, so we thought it was wind-driven rain against old CMU block wall that just got painted, but there were still some spots that had some pinholes in it, and maybe that's where it was coming from. Had the painter come out and take a look at our dealer, our supplier.
Sherwin-Williams rep.
Yeah. So they came out, looked at it, and offered a solution, a nice product. What was it called?
It was like a elastomeric paint.
Yeah, elastomeric paint type of situation.
Lennox. Yeah.
Where we had the perfect storm.
Yeah.
Like, get this done Friday. It's going to rain on Monday. Perfect setup.
Yes.
Let's see if this bad boy works. And it leaked.
Yep.
And it leaked. Son of a gun.
Yeah. I went over there with my thermal imaging camera.
Yeah.
And I was scanning the wall, and then I went on the inside, and I didn't need my camera. It was definitely wet on the inside. I
could tell.
But we could kind of see with the camera where it's coming through. And
So
we're pretty confident it's somewhere in the center of the block wall. Fairly confident. We're going to add some gutters on the side and then stop because that whole wall, the roof pitches and all the water spills. All the water just spills off that block wall.
It's like where the valley is. Everything just pours out there.
You have your CMU blocks, and then you have the grout in between, and all of that is porous, so it can accept water in and it can get pushed through and come to the inside, and that's what we believe is happening. So if we put a gutter right on the edge and divert the water down and out, we believe that will stop the leaks.
That's true.
We're pretty sure.
But I do want to talk more about that thermal imaging camera. So usually, if we have a leak, we can't find it, right?
Yeah.
That's what that camera's for.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily pick up on moisture. What it is it's doing is it's detecting differences in temperature, technically. So usually the water, when it enters something, will be colder than the actual whatever else is around it. So you get this big blue spot on the camera. And it's pretty cool. Maybe we can link a picture because I just took a couple pictures from the other day. But so you'll see like a dark blue spot, and that's how you know there's a bunch of water there. Yeah. And the rest will be like an orange, like haze. So it was a camera I bought back in my home inspecting days, and it's just a really neat tool because it helps you kind of track some stuff down. So that's coming from the roof and or the walls. Then there's the infamous wind-driven rain. So for anyone who has an insurance policy, okay, this is very important.
Especially on the coast.
Yes. If you have rain like that, if your roof is damaged, your insurance policy will cover you for that. Now, if the wind is driving the rain horizontally, okay, your insurance company might not cover this. So this is what's called wind-driven rain. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little different, but it's still the same thing, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't love insurance.
Sideways rain.
Sideways rain.
I don't like that.
So we have a project that just wrapped up, actually, where wind-driven rain caused a ton of damage to all these exterior patio doors. So we ended up having to pull 9 doors out of a hotel because the wind drove the rain through the bottom of the doors, which destroyed the flooring in that unit and the ceiling below. So that property is actually right on the coast. But wind-driven rain is a tricky one because it technically, if it were to rain straight down, there would have been no damage because the roof overhangs. There would have been nothing. But the wind from the coast was driving that rain so horizontally that it just attacked the door frame and then went through and damaged a ton of units. So we ended up renovating probably 10 units just from that one thing, maybe even more.
What's the fix for, especially, I know the scenario here, you're on the coast, so what is this solution for wind-driven rain, especially when it's on the coast like that, like your balcony's facing the ocean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we ended up doing is we pulled all the trim off, we pulled the doors out, and we evaluated what we thought was happening. And so between the bottom of the door and the siding, there was a gap. And so basically the rain was going through this gap and behind the siding and then getting into the building.
Yeah.
So we pulled all the doors off, all the trim off, and we made these custom stainless steel pans because we're on the coast. You can't just use a regular metal. You have to use stainless steel. We fabricated these custom pans with these flanges that went down past the siding, and then we caulked them in and everything. And then we set the doors, sealed all around the whole door and everything, put the trim back on, and basically made it all watertight.
Okay.
And when you do that, you also have to be careful. Doors have these things called weep holes in the bottom of them, and you cannot seal those. And I came back to the doors, and some of them were sealed. And because they were different doors because it was renovated over time.
Yeah.
And so some of the doors had weep tracks, and some of them had weep holes. So the guys were good about some of them because they were obvious, and then other ones were a little bit more tricky because that's how the water gets out. Again, you don't want to trap it in.
Yeah.
Even if we trapped it in, technically we had those custom-made pans that would have caught it, would have been fine. But, just devil's in the details. So
Devil's in the details.
So, yeah, that's how we fixed that. And we haven't had any wind-driven rain yet. But, yeah, I'm excited to see, the next storm, see what happens. I'm sure it feels pretty good. Feels like it's wrapped up pretty tight.
Feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, we did it the right way. Instead of just caulking everything, we actually pulled the doors, made these pans. Had them custom ordered, so yeah, it's actually very affordable. I thought they were going to be
really.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like $300 a pan. It was like $80.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah, stainless steel. So
I mean, you mentioned weep holes, right?
Yes.
It's not just. I mean, there's many types of weep holes. You got weep holes on brick.
Yes.
You got windows. You got doors. I mean, what is the idea of a weep hole? I guess.
So the saying is like, you can try to stop water, but it will get in. So
I say that all the time.
So you need a way to let it out.
Yeah.
Right. So
that is the saying.
Yeah.
You could try to stop water.
You can try,
but don't come in.
So
you gotta let it out.
So on newer brick, Cameron, you're the best. You're just, on newer brick, you'll see these rectangular plastic inserts.
Yeah.
And that's a weep hole because just inevitably, like we were talking about, the grout, water's going to get in, gravity pulls it down, and then it weeps up the bottom.
You don't have those.
Yeah. Not. Yeah. I see it caulked all the time.
I know.
It's so frustrating.
Homeowner's like, what is it? Let me do that. Like, no, don't do that.
No. On older brick, you don't have that. They didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, door systems, it's really important, especially storefront or any like patio door, because you technically have a wet and a dry area. So, where the glass meets the frame, there's a gasket, but a gasket over time will start to wear and the water will get in. Okay, it'll get into the frame. So basically they're accepting the fact that the water's going to get in. Now you have a wet and dry section in the base. If you were to cut the thing in half, there's actually a leg that comes up where it splits the wet and dry section. So on the wet section, it's sloped out to the weep hole. On the dry section, it's just a rectangle because water's not supposed to get in there. So, weep holes are really important to let the water out when it inevitably gets in. You can do your best to stop it, but it doesn't always work. The most challenging, I would say, is when a frame or system has a weep hole that's been then framed in by the framers, and we have a condition.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew. I was like, let's talk about that one.
Yeah. So certain people build things a certain way, and they don't have the necessarily the understanding of the weep system, and we're
very lovely. I love the way you worded that.
Yes. And without spending an enormous amount of money, we are trying to solve those things. There's a solution for everything, but then there's also a dollar price tag for everything. And
right.
So just trying to be reasonable about the way we fix things. Sometimes when it's not our project and not our, we're just trying to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Opportunity for a solution.
That's right. Opportunity for solution. So now let's talk about hydrostatic pressure.
My goodness.
You want to take that one?
I can only imagine you're talking about one specific project. We thought we had it over at our local project here. Mm-hmm. We thought, because we have floor outlets. There's some conference rooms that have floor outlets, and during that process, those need to get roughed in. So we had to cut out the slab, go down to the soil pretty much, put in a little conduit, and get inspection, stuff like that. And here we are towards the end of the project. They all had covers on them. with months and months of rain, pressure washing the building, all the water inside. We open up the covers and there's water. We're like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And my electrician assured me that he has vacuumed them out before and the water just keeps coming. So we're like, okay, this has to be coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Walk the building, look around the perimeter of the building and realize that there are some areas where hydrostatic water could come in.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate it was not the case.
Yeah.
So that was nice. But I would imagine you're talking about one in specific where it rains so much near the perimeter of your building that the water table does rise and rise, and then that water needs to go somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Where does it go? Inside your building.
Inside the building. So, yeah, that's exactly correct. So, and it's so much fun, let me tell you.
How do you stop that?
I was standing.
Gosh.
So I was standing there, right, looking at this wall, and then I panned over and I see just a little water spout coming out of the block wall.
Pouring like that?
Pouring. So I walk up to it, and it's just pouring out. So, yeah, hydrostatic pressure is essentially soil and the weight of the asphalt parking lot on top of that, pressing down so much that the water is trying to find a place to go. So the pressure of that is pushing it through the block wall.
Yep.
And that it was at eye level. So I have a picture of it.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just coming right out of the wall. Yep.
Oh my God.
So, and that wasn't the only leak. It was all over the place. Yeah. So that building in particular was probably about 5 foot below the exterior grade.
Yeah.
So you have that much weight from the soil and the parking lot and all that kind of stuff pushing the water down and through the foundation. So, yeah, we had to dig out the dirt, waterproof the exterior foundation, then do a new asphalt parking lot on top, and add gutters and downspouts and subsurface drainage and all that kind of stuff. So it was, and we added a V-swell in the back. It was a lot of work. Yeah. So
That's so fun.
that was that's what you got to do to fight the water.
Yeah, there's some other options too. Like another project that we have in the past, you could tell they had some issues with water, right? So they've created this nice little swell in their basement.
Yeah.
That we then created pretty much a
sump
pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a sump area.
Yeah.
Right. And then all we had to do was add a sump pump. We're like, okay, if water does come in, it's going to channel to this area, and then we'll just pump it out.
Right.
You know, that's the best we can do at the time.
Yeah, and John Serva monitored the sump, and we were trying to see if it would fill up with water, and eventually it did. Yeah, it was. We were guessing it would because of the way the old owner had it perfectly shaped, and we're like, yeah, it looks like water would probably go there. Yeah,
so goes there.
Hydrostatic pressure, love it.
Love it. So we talked about water coming from the sky, water coming from the side, and then from the ground.
Yes.
Any other? Oh, we did talk about
condensation.
Condensation. That's the one that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So, especially in North Carolina, we have a ton of humidity.
Oh my gosh! Can I tell this story real quick?
Go ahead.
So, when I was a residential home builder, we just had our floors done. So, like the house is being built, the windows are in, drywall's up, and everything, right? And they put LVL floors down, and then someone left all the windows open over the night. And I come in, and I thought one of my water mains broke or something. There was so much water on the floor.
Really?
And it was just from condensation.
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous amount of water. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because that's hot air coming in through the window. And then did you have AC on?
Yep, I had a cold house.
Yeah, so you're blowing AC, and then as soon as that warm air hits the cold air, it's just...
I called my boss. I was like, we have a leak here. And he's like, are the windows open? I was like, yeah. He's like, nah. You just got to close those windows. I was like, son of a.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and like you said, it can produce so much water you would never, like, it's a ridiculous amount.
It was.
To the point where it drips. So, again, this is a perfect example of, like, a roof leak, right? Like, some of the buildings we buy, they have metal roofs. And, you know, the actual metal on the roof can condensate and appear to be a roof leak if it's not insulated well.
That would make sense. You know, the roof is hot. You have cold air from your AC rising up, hitting that. Yeah, makes sense.
So if it's not insulated right, it will appear to be a roof leak. So, yeah, it's definitely something you got to keep in mind. The same with the walls. If you have metal walls and they're not insulated right, it'll just streak down the walls and puddle at the ground. It's very bizarre. Then we have good old Plumbing.
Good old plumbing.
So I got a call, I don't know, a month ago.
Oh.
And it was one of our old facilities. And it's, Ryan, this roof leak is so bad.
Oh, gosh.
I was like, oh, no. You know, of course, I'm like, let me help, you know? And she's like, I just have to keep mopping it up every 20 minutes. So I'm like,
20 minutes? Holy. Is there actively raining outside when this
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hello.
I didn't know that, though. It's 4 hours away.
Yeah, no.
So she's like emailing me every 20 minutes. I have to mop this thing up. And I was like, this is the craziest thing ever, you know? So the roofer gets there, and they had to go there anyway because there was another issue that really was the roof. And they sent me a video, and it's like there's the storage unit, right? And like they can see the water coming in from the back of the storage unit coming out the front. So they walk around, and basically the plumbing for the main plumbing for the building, there was an old fitting that they like capped off like not very good. Yeah. And because the part was extremely expensive because it was an old backflow system. So we had a special order this part. But anyways, it's just leaking out of the back of this back of this backflow preventer. So yeah, that's another one. Right, interior plumbing can always cause an issue. And it's just fun to try to find out what is causing the issue. Yeah. I had another project that was just probably a month ago. Yeah. We installed brand new drywall, and I knew there's a bunch of plumbing in this wall. Mm-hmm. And of course, I was like, hey, no clavos aquí, no, no tornillas aquí. Yeah. Por favor. And then the screws went right in the area that we were hoping to not have any screws. Yeah. And they actually hit it twice. Same line in the wall twice. So
there's only so much those plates can do.
Yeah, we had 0 of those said plates, but yeah, you're really supposed to have these plates where you whack them onto the studs. Yeah, which is
helps prevent.
Yeah, helps prevent
stuff like that. Punctures all the time, even in residential. That's exactly drywall screws all the time. That's why you always keep your lines pressurized. So if water is leaking, or if it does get hit, you know early on
right away. Yeah.
Because that would be the worst. Like, oh yeah, we're at CO, turn the water on, and then 8 leaks. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. So what else? What other water?
I know water is healthy. It helps you grow. I also know that
it helps to grow mold.
That is, yes,
we did have another one. I'm remembering. It's kind of the same project, but the Curie Beach flooded so bad that the sewer system actually was what caused one of our units to leak. So, so basically, all the stormwater went into the sewer system, backed up through the shower, spilled out of the shower, and then flooded the unit out of the base of the shower.
That is by far not my most favorite story.
Just imagine the smell when you open the door, because it was about it was about knee high, full of.
Knee high or caca?
It was both. It was a mix. It was a mix. It was so bad that when we pulled the drywall, these were block exterior walls. When we pulled the drywall off the block walls, even the block walls were molding. I swear there was just a layer of mold on the block walls. Water is not your friend, even though it helps you grow nice and healthy, as Cameron said. Right. It can really be a pain.
It can cause a lot of damage.
Yes, it can.
Be a nightmare to track down. Has a lot of damage, and you can't even know it sometimes.
I just remembered another one.
Oh boy, you got so many.
You never would have thought of this one.
Probably not. I'm too busy thinking.
Think about fire. What happens when there's a fire?
You want water.
You want a lot of water.
You want water in a hurry.
And there's people's jobs that it is to just come and dump a whole bunch of water there. They're called the fire department. Yeah. And they get a little bit sprayy with said water. So spray-esque. So we had a fire on the 3rd floor.
Where is this?
This is actually the same project.
Oh my goodness.
Just a year ago.
Okay.
Admiral's quarters.
Yep.
cleaner came in, the oven was on. They set the cleaner basket right on the oven.
Yeah,
Poof, up in flames. Whole unit. Fire department came, took a bunch of hoses and just
dumped it.
Doused it.
Yeah.
Doused it.
That's going everywhere,
yeah.
too.
So it went, obviously, 3rd level, 2nd level, and luckily below the 2nd level was a tunnel like passage.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, it absolutely just doused everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had the opportunity to replace a whole bunch there. That was a lot of fun. And dealing with insurance, that was a really tricky thing to navigate. The insurance company was actually great. They didn't like one of the people on the team, but they were cool with me. So took a while. Took a while to get paid, but yeah, we got it done. So
gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so water can come from everywhere. It comes from even places you wouldn't imagine.
I honestly thought you were going with fire suppression when you said that.
That's a good point.
Because we do have fire suppression on a lot of our buildings.
Yes.
One of my biggest fears is obviously like what happens if one of our trades hits that and it just goes off. So
yes. So
have we had that?
We have not had that yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully we do not yet. We're knock on wood.
Yeah.
Unlike the movies, when a fire sprinkler head goes off, it is just that one head. It's not like everyone goes off. There's actually a glass bulb in there that has some sort of active. Is it mercury or do you know what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I know it's like temperature rated, right? Because there's different temperatures, like different colors for
so
heat source.
If it goes up to 200 degrees, let's say, then the glass pops, and then so it breaks that physical pushing on the gasket there, and then the water comes out.
Yeah.
But if you hit one and you break the glass just physically, then the water will come out for sure. That's why they tell you not to put your hangers on the fire sprinkler heads in hotels, because if you do, and then you go pull your shirt off, out comes the glass, and out comes the water.
Ooh,
lots of it. Yeah, no, but we have had 30 sprinkler heads painted.
Yeah, that was a fun little scenario.
Yeah,
where we said, "Do not do that." Definitely said, "Do not do that."
Multiple times. Yeah. Don't do this.
We did it.
Yeah, that's when you have trades working over the weekend.
Can't get it all.
Or nighttime shift.
No, that's an opportunity to get that corrected.
Yes. Well, we got 30 brand new sprinkler heads.
We did
for free, essentially. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
But it wasn't fun when we noticed that. I would say that was not fun. Water. What are we talking about? Water retention ponds. Ponder on that for a second. All right. Yeah.
I'm loving that. I love that one.
Every time I see a water retention pond plan or anything, it's a lot of work. I have never been a part of a project start to finish. Have you with a water retention pond?
No, thank goodness. But I do know, like, it's usually if you disturb over more than 1 acre, you got to have some type of water retention pond.
Right. It depends on the AHJ, but basically, like, if you're having impervious surface where rain is going to be controlled essentially by that impervious surface, like asphalt, it's not just going to soak into the ground. It's going to go wherever the asphalt is pointing, sloped to. Yeah. So with that, they want to mitigate you overloading the storm system, because a lot of the city stormwater control can't handle all of this water. So as you overdevelop, they sometimes make you store the water on site. And that's why it's so expensive to build new construction nowadays, because what you don't see is all the stormwater basically lines that are under the parking lot that then lead to this retention pond, which also has to be inspected and all this kind of nuance. But yeah, under your parking lot, you have this whole underground tunnel system that is basically sloped and catching all of the water that hits the parking lot and then goes to this pond. Also, you need to dig out. Usually there's not a natural bowl, so you got to dig this out and excavate it. And they also sometimes make you do these, like, it's called a concrete vault. John Serva and Levi had to do it over at
421.
421. Yep. And there's like pond line. There's a pond liner, and there was a vault, and then there was gravel, and then it was this crazy setup. And I was like, that looks expensive. Yeah. It's so expensive. So sometimes if you don't have enough space to build like a big one, you could do these vault systems, and
dang.
Yeah, it's a lot. So Yeah, I mean that's why we love conversions because they know that like they can't just require you to just dig a big bowl in your parking lot and that's now your retention, right? So usually, typically, you're grandfathered in if you're not, like you said, disturbing over an acre. So, yeah, I mean, if you are going to do a big parking lot on the side, you might have to. But typically, that's why we steer away from that kind of stuff because we do not want to do water retention ponds.
No.
Frozen pipes, Cameron.
Frozen pipes.
So this winter was very cold. Very cold.
Yes. I mean, for North Carolina standards, yes.
Yes. I guess I'm from New York.
So yeah, I was like, come on.
Yeah, it was mildly cold, but it definitely got below 32 degrees.
Correct.
Probably 40 nights out of this year.
That's yeah. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so frozen pipes is something we're definitely concerned with. When we turn off our power, and we don't have gas, we don't have heat.
Yep, I'm tracking.
So a lot of times we need to go to the fire marshal and say, hey, we're not going to have heat. Are we good to drain out the fire sprinkler system? Because we can definitely run into a scenario where we freeze the pipes, and then as soon as we turn on the fire sprinkler system, then if the fire sprinkler system is on, it'll have water in the pipes, and the system will freeze, and then once it thaws, then we'll have a massive leak. So, yeah, frozen pipes is definitely something where water can come from where it's not wanted.
That is true.
Yeah.
And that is why we drain our systems.
Yes. And also we can't really have all the plumbing ran and have it pressurized and have it, not being climate controlled in there over a long period of time, especially in the winter. It would not be fun to walk into the building and see water all over the place because of a frozen pipe or two. So
that's why we insulate.
That's why we insulate, and that's why we turn off all the water when it's wintertime and we don't have heat. Yeah.
Or if not, you get a slight little drizzle, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. By slight little drizzle, Cameron means usually you
turn on the faucet.
You turn on the faucet just a little bit at the furthest fixture.
Correct.
So everything's cycling through. So, yep, that's a little insurance package there. Just turn on the faucet, and that's also going to be pretty expensive if you crank that thing open. But yeah, so I think that covers all things water related.
That is a deep dive into water.
Can you think of anything else?
I cannot think of anything else.
Just your tears after crying because water has damaged your building?
Because I've CO'd so many buildings. Just, thank gosh. Tears of joy.
Tears of joy. You're about to get there for 717. Woo! All right. Well, that was season 2, episode 11. Thanks for joining. My name is Ryan Bono. This is Cameron Pleasant. And we will catch you on the next one.
All right.